What's up everyone? Today we're going to be doing something that I have never actually messed with before. On the Firebird, we have, this is an all original car, so everything from 1968 is still basically on this car, except for one thing. So today we're going to be changing out the rear suspension, which is going to be the leaf springs and the shocks. Now, the only thing that was not original about this rear suspension is that the previous owner set up air shocks, right? So these are, at the time, these are changed out so that way you can, you know, use compressed air and you can adjust, you know, the shock travel, or I guess not the shock travel, but the, like, you know, how springy that you want the shock. So he installed the air shocks, and actually when I installed the new gas tank, I found this bundle of wires like right behind the license plate. So I was looking at it and I was like, what is this bundle of wire? It was actually this one right here, right? I was looking at it. I mean, at the time I wasn't really paying attention because I was doing the gas tank. But I just kind of shoved it back in there, not thinking much of it, right? I didn't want to cut it. I didn't know what it was. A couple of nights ago, I actually went into the car. I got it on jack stands, and then I traced the wire back, you know, from here, and it went all the way down to that little nipple on the shock right there. So I went ahead and just cut it because they weren't holding any air anyway. They're kind of old. And then that's where we stand. So jeez, let me zoom out again. Oh my god. All right, so I'm gonna show you what we have to match the front suspension. Well, QA1 doesn't actually make a rear suspension or any leaf springs for an F-body, so I went with Hotchkis. We have their I think 1.5 inch lowering springs. Comes with all their hardware kit, so they have new shackles, new bushings, U-bolts, everything. So everything you need to basically take the old stuff out, put the new stuff in. We have, I did go with QA1 shocks again because I like to have a matching set, even though we couldn't have QA1 springs. This one is the single adjustable. This is not going to be a crazy high horsepower car, or I'm not even going to, I mean, more than likely what I'm going to do with the car anyway is I'm going to kind of set it and forget it. So these ones are going to be, let's see, these are going to be the TS802s. Now they have another one that if you go to Summer Racing or Jegs or any of your auto parts stores and you type in QA1 shocks, there's two that come up. One of them is going to be for a multi-leaf setup like this one, the 802, and it's about a ½ inch longer in shock travel. And the other one's gonna be a single leaf setup for like all your original Camaros that have all the single leaf stuff, or I think the Firebirds with the 350 engine, I think they also come with a single leaf suspension setup. Luckily this car had obviously a multi-leaf setup, so that's good. So typically what you want, or from the forums I've looked at for these cars, that you kind of want a multi-leaf setup, and the reason is because it's more of a safety aspect for real. You have what, 1, 2, 3, 4 different leaves on each side, and there's something called fatigue life. So over time, the constant springiness of like your suspension moving is going to fatigue out your leaf spring and actually snap it, right? And the good thing about a multi-leaf setup is that if you snap one, you still have all the other leaves to kind of handle the weight. Single leaf setup, you snap it, that's it. Your suspension is basically going to be collapsed on that side. It's not going to be that big of a deal if you're tracking the car and you kind of replace the suspension or the leaf springs on a, you know, every decade or so. But if you plan to have it and just change it and then never touch the suspension again, it's advisable to go to a multi-leaf setup. One thing we're going to do also is we're going to clean up all the rust on the axle, give it a nice undercoat spray. All these brackets we're going to clean up. They're actually not that bad for being all original. This side's a little bit rusty on the surface, but again, nothing that we can't clean up. It's a solid metal. To kind of show you another, I think I posted this on one of my first videos, but to kind of show you about how clean this car actually was. I mean, this is all original stuff. So we have a little hole in the exhaust, which is, you know, 60-year-old, I mean, almost, yeah, 55-year-old car. I mean, everything is pretty clean under here. I mean, you have very little surface rust on everything. So kind of similar video as last time. We're gonna be doing a set it down, kind of show you the process, learning experience. Boom. Let's see. There we go. Take this one off. I saw this piece and I was like, there's no way I can get this off because the axle's in the way. Well, I guess what I learned, you know, looking through all the forums and stuff like that, because I was like, how do you get how do you get this off without removing the axle? You have to remove the axle, which is not a problem actually in this car, because this is a Pontiac. This is something called a BOP rear end. BOP stands for Buick Olds and Pontiac, and basically how you can tell is that this is the GM Timble, but it has like this, like these little two indents on each side, right? And so you can tell it's a BOP rear axle. What's cool about the BOP axles or the differentials is that they're actually bolt-in. So typically on a GM Timble, you have the axles are held in by, Jesus Christ. The axles are held in by C-clips, right? So they'll have the axle shaft will go in, and then in the differential they'll actually have like these little C-clip, and you put them in, and then there's a little rod that goes through it. That's how these axles are held in place. In this car, it's actually bolted in. So this flange right here bolts into this back part of the axle. Now this design is way easier because this is how like basically modern cars are made now. So that way you don't have to open a differential. You could just take everything out right here. I'll show you guys basically how easy it is. So 4 bolts, and then a little bit of shaking. All right. There we go. Get that out. And then the axle just comes right up, and then we can slide the axle basically right back in. Let's see. All right, so as you see, I had to cut that piece off. Now we have this loose cable. That's gonna be okay. As I said before in the other, the front Brembo brake install, when choosing this option, you actually forfeit your e-brake, which is fine by me, because when I well, first of all, right now it's an automatic, so leaving it in park is okay. And when I get the manual transmission in there, I'll just leave it in first gear and just turn my tires to the curb or something like that. Ah, I'm too tall. Okay. Next step, clean up everything. Clean up that bracket, clean up that bracket, get rid of this, set up for the new stuff, which also removes, I have to, you can't see it right there, but I have to remove that old bushing in there. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. I'm probably gonna, I have no idea how I'm gonna do that, but I gotta get the old bushing out. I did figure out how this works. Side with the bushing is the front side, so this side will match that one right there. Yeah, other than that, I mean, I guess I could start assembling the leaf springs together after I get that done in spray, and then I call it a night. It is late and I am in school, and what time is it? 9:30. So let's go ahead and get a wire brush on that, and then we'll be done. Jesus Christ. Alright, so as y'all see, I got the portion of the axle. I went ahead and wire brushed it and painted it. Now, the next part that I did, which I did off camera, was I got the subframe bushings off, which is right here. And the reason why I did it off camera was because mainly it's kind of difficult, at least on my car. So I tried using a screwdriver and I couldn't get it off. As you see, the ends of them, they basically all just, they're dry rotted, they all ripped off. So what I ended up doing is that I had this little hook, and I went ahead and got underneath in between the metal and the rubber. I also used some WD-40 to help it. So, and I'll show you why I kind of didn't film it, because it was kind of in a tough spot to film, where you could actually see it while I was working. But basically, subframe connectors go in just like this in that hole, right? And they're kind of in a little bit more. So I took that tool and I kind of wedged it in here, and then rolled it out just kind of like that. And then both of those came out not relatively easy, but easy enough to where it didn't, you know, waste too much time. Alright, so I kind of discerned, I went through the bag and kind of made sure I got everything. So let's start with the front of the car first, and we'll go to the rear. In here we have your main axle or leaf spring eye bolt. That's going to go on there. We also have your replacement clips. I still have to take these out the car, but basically to take the old ones out. And then we have 3 bolts and 3 washers, grade 8 for that. Going to here where the axle actually meets up with the leaf spring, the firebird only came with 1 U-bolt. We have 2 now, so I'm gonna have to take that brake line and move it up, and so I get the U-bolt through and under so I don't crush the brake line. It has the 2 spacers, so one that goes between the axle and the actual leaf spring, and then one that goes in between the shock mount and the leaf spring. At the end here you have your polyurethane bushing, so 2 that go in the frame rail, 2 that go into the leaf, just like that actually. So you have all your grade 8 hardware. This will go through the tube, so I might go ahead and get a hammer and then hammer that in. You have your 2 bolts, so one that goes through the bottom mount, and then one that goes to the top in the frame rail. You're gonna pry this clip up just like this, and then slide it out. I'll try this one right here. I can see a little better with this one. Yeah, just like this. Okay, so now essentially this is pretty much the hardest part of the entire thing. we're just lifting this leaf spring up in this perch. And this is the part where, like, if you have a buddy, you're probably going to call your buddy to help, or you have somebody to help like there, but I don't have anybody right now, so we're gonna make it work like a lot of other people have made it work. So let's see. Yes. There we go. Oh my fuck, that's bad.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Alright, so basically Alright, so now that we have the front bolted in and the rear shackles in, the next thing is we want to get our bushing that goes right here. This is going to be it, and what you're going to see is these little, these are like movement pins, so basically they just hold everything in place. So you're going to want this to slide on just like that to where it's on the movement pin, and then this pin is gonna fit in a hole right here. Alright, so as you see, I had a time lowering this thing back onto the leaf spring. Basically what happened was I had this all the way raised up. The weight of the wheel twisted the axle on the passenger side up, so basically it wasn't aligning right. So what I did was I jacked the also because these springs are a little bit shallower than other ones, I jacked the other side up with the different jack, right? Luckily I had two. Luckily I had two. I dropped this one down and this one basically fell into place almost perfectly. I made sure that the holes lined up, which they do. There is slight shift, but you can tell the retaining spring, the retaining pin is doing its job of holding it exactly where it needs to be. So next up, we have one more pad. This basically goes up on the other side. You see that other pin right there, and this goes just like, let's see, this, and then I'll go ahead and get the U-bolts and bolt the this flange back together. All right, so there was a small issue when installing the shock mount or the shock plate. As you see, I had to kind of drill a hole to the side for the new bolt to actually sit in, because it was, what actually happened, it was pressing right here, and I was tightening these U-bolts, and I don't know if I bent it a little bit, that's how it was, but they had an indentation basically right here where the shock plate was. Now my biggest fear with this is that it may slide out, but I think with enough clamping force of the U-bolts that there shouldn't be any sliding on the axle. But and you also have the mounting studs on the top ones that shouldn't allow it to slide. So we're gonna see if this fits. These U-bolts are pretty tight fit on these stock shock plate and stock studs right there, but we should be able to make it work. I think also before I install this, I think I'm gonna drill out the holes with my 1/2-inch drill bit, just to make the U-bolt slide in just a little bit easier. Alright, so next part you want to do for this install is going to be your shock. So again, like I said in the beginning of the video, I opted with QA1 shocks. They come with all your rubber isolators for the top and bottom. They come with your little pins for your screw holes to go through, or little pins for your screws to go through. And here is the shock. Now again, this is going to be that part number. Let's see. That's going to be your TS802 part number. That's going to be for F-bodies, first generation F-bodies that have a multi-lift setup like this. I think the 1801s have the single leaf, the mono leaf shock for it, and those shocks are just a little bit shorter. And then included is their own, or a separate you have to buy, and these are like $10 a piece, is their shock setup for F-bodies, right? So just like the old setup, what you're gonna want to do is have one side, let's see if I can see this. You're gonna have one side right here, you're gonna have two washers. A washer goes on this side. I'm gonna have to drill that out to get, yeah, I'm gonna have to drill this hole out to get this bolt to fit. Probably gonna be a 1/2 inch. All right, so I think I got it to, yep, there we go. All right, so that's how you install Hotchkis low working springs onto your 68 Firebird. So next step on the next video, oh man, lighting's terrible. All right, so in the next video, I'm gonna kind of go over how we're gonna install our brake caliper setup using Noah's brake kit, and we'll go ahead and drop the car and see how it looks, especially when we put the new wheels on there. So again, thanks you guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead and like and give it a comment. It really helps. Subscribe definitely. I'll definitely try to get these next couple of videos out a lot sooner than I usually have, since school is kind of slowing down. So again, appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.